Hello and welcome to Cupcake Addiction's Panda Cake Pop tutorial, where I'll be showing you how to make this gorgeous little really easy panda cake pop. We've also got a panda cupcake tutorial on our channel, My Cupcake Addiction, so you can check that one out if you love pandas. For today's tutorial, the tools and equipment that we will be using today, I'm resting my panda in a polystyrene block. I have just a regular Ziploc bag, a pair of scissors. I've got a cake pop ball. Now, if you don't have a great recipe for getting your cake pop balls to this stage ready to dip and decorate, we do have one on our channel and I will leave a link to it in the description box below. I have pre-refrigerated that, so that's really nice and firm. That's been in the fridge for about 15 minutes until it's quite firm to touch. I've got 2 Lollypop sticks. I've got some desiccated coconut, so it's that fine sort of sprinkled coconut. If you don't like coconut, you could also use a white sanding sugar or just regular white sprinkles or non-pearls. We've got some melted white chocolate or white candy melts, some melted dark chocolate. I've got a few quite large chocolate chips. Now in the US, these are called Nestle morsels. What you want is a chocolate chip that's not the smallest ones you can find. So I think that our equivalent here in Australia will be the Nestle baking chips. They're about the largest ones we can buy. I've also got just a butter knife. So let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our Lollypop stick and just dip it a little way, about a centimetre or so, into that melted white chocolate. Taking your cake pop ball, there'll be a slightly flat bottom on one side. You just want to pop that Lollypop stick into the bottom about halfway to 2/3 of the way up that cake ball. We're going to let that sit to the side until that chocolate seal sets. Now I know that my ball is really nice and cold because it's been in the fridge, so that's going to set just sitting at room temperature as it touches the coolness of the cake pop ball, but you can also put that in the fridge if you're in a particularly warm environment. While we're waiting for that to set, we're just going to prepare some of our little bits for our panda. So we're going to have 2 ears, we're going to have our 2 eyes, and we're going to have our nose. So the nose, you just want to take one of those chocolate chips and just cut it in half. Beautiful. You can eat 1/2 of that because you only need 1/2 to make this cute little panda. For the eyes, we're going to complete those once they're actually on the pop, and that's just so that we don't make too much of a mess or anything with them. So what you want to do here is you want to take your cake pop. I'm happy that that's set enough, but you really do want a nice firm seal set there. So taking your melted chocolate, dip your cake pop ball in, just give it a little turn so that that white chocolate meets up with that lovely chocolate seal, and just give it a few taps just to get any of that excess chocolate off. Now, don't be too concerned because he is going to get a nice sort of a coating of that coconut. So you want to work quite quickly here, and you're going to take 2 of those chocolate chips and put them into each side, quite spaced apart, so you don't want them too close together. And then you're going to take his 2 eyes and push them in. You really want to try and push them into that melted white chocolate and quite close together. And then you want to take your half choc chip and you want it to be flat side up, with the rounded side out facing you. Pop that in for the nose. Now before that starts to set too much, take your desiccated coconut and we're just going to give him a nice coating of fur. So as I said, you do want to work quite quickly here. If you do find that he starts to dry, you can just sweep on a little bit more of that melted white chocolate using a toothpick or something like that in any places that you find your desiccated coconut is not quite sticking. You can also just take your fingers and just pat it around. So wait until you've got a nice coating of the coconut on there. And as you pat it around, you'll actually stick it to that white chocolate. All right, so just give him just a little tap off and just wipe any spare coconut away from his eyes and ears. And you do just want to make sure your coconut's not too thick down here for the mouth because that's where we're going to be piping on a little bit of our detail work. So just sweeping some of that messy coconut off to the side. I do recommend doing this over a baking tray or something because it can get quite messy. So now that we've got our eyes on, you want to take a little bit of that melted chocolate, and I like to use another Lollypop stick to do this, and that's just because it's got sort of a bit of an eye-shaped end on it, I suppose. It's a little bit fatter than a cocktail stick, and you want to put the whites of the eyes sort of up the top. So you kind of want his eyes to be up here so that he's got the big blacks of his eyes coming down underneath. So, and I guess on a little bit of an angle. So I'm going to pop my whites of the eyes just here and just here. Lovely. We can let those ones dry for a little bit. Now you just want to take your Ziploc bag and just pop in a little bit of that melted chocolate. And you really don't need much of the melted chocolate. It's just to do some fine detail work. As you can see there, I've just popped just a really little bit in and just push it all the way down to the corner of the bag. we're going to cut out a really nice fine piping tip off the end of that. So just a really tiny little corner. So you've fashioned yourself a bit of a fine piping tip. And we're just going to draw the mouth. So just a little J, one direction, and down in the other direction. And finally, to finish him off, we just want his little eyeballs. So just one eyeball and the other eyeball. So there you've got your gorgeous and really, really easy little panda cake pop. I'm sure you'll agree he was incredibly easy to make, and I think he's just adorable. Thanks very much for watching.